Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos, good evening. Welcome to Congregation Dor Tamid. It is great to see everyone here this evening, here in our sanctuary, as well as welcome everyone who is joining us on Facebook, on Zoom, YouTube, our website, however you are joining us virtually, as we come together this evening for Kabbalat Shabbat worship services, as we welcome in this day of rest. And it is truly a pleasure to be back with you this evening after being at camp last week with many of our CDT kids, as well as 400 kids from around Georgia, Florida, and the Carolinas. But it's always good to come home and be here in our sanctuary, welcoming Shabbat, welcoming in this moment we have where we can all take that step back and truly just breathe. So as we enter into Shabbat, I'm going to ask everyone just to take a moment and close your eyes and just breathe in everything that is good and high and holy. Breathe out all the schmutz of the week. Truly enter into the space of Shabbat. Enter into this moment of rest and renewal as we sing together the words on page 128 that say how beautiful it is that all of us are here together.
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, יאללה לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
As we do each week, we enter into Shabbat by bringing more light into creation, and to kindle our Sabbath lights this evening, I'm going to ask Randy Kennedy to come to the bima, along with Brandon, who is here tonight, having just graduated and coming back for services this Kabbalat Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
So before you sit down, so Brandon is here tonight, but he is about to set off on a journey, taking a job in Vegas. And so before he sets forth, before he leaves us for a while, but we know you'll come home to your mom's house and also here to CDT, we're going to ask God to give you this blessing. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, shetolichenu l'shalom v'tatzidenu l'shalom, v'tadrichenu l'shalom. May it be your will, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, that you guide Brandon safely on his journey, that you lead him on his path in peace. May it be your will, Adonai, our God, that you bring this child of our congregation safely on his journey and return him here when it is his time to come home. We thank you for bringing us to this holy time of transition in the lives of this child of our community. Watch over him, O God, and protect him as he moves from the loving embrace of family and synagogue to new horizons. We thank you for the opportunities we have had to bestow the blessings of Torah upon our student as he has found Torah amongst us. We ask that this child of our congregation seek and find Torah and gimilut chasadim, acts of goodness and kindness out in the world. May he always be a diligent student of truth, and may the study of Torah always be sweet as honey on his lips. May he always know life and love. May he always pursue peace and justice, and may he always carry his precious Jewish heritage with pride and dignity. Baruch atah b'voecha, Baruch atah b'tzeitecha. Blessed were you when you came into this place, and blessed may you be as you go forth from here. Amen. We turn now to page 124 as we read responsively. May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for friendship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be for all who enter the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
We prepare to welcome in Shabbat with the words of Psalm 95 on page 130.
Lechu niranena l'Adonai, nariya letzor yishenu, nekahat ma'afanav b'todah, bizmirot nariya lo. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along all the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash.
We turn now in our prayer books to page 142 as we welcome in the angels of Shabbat, asking them to come in peace and be messengers of peace for us, with the words of Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Nileshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzidchem leshalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Page 144 for the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה נאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
Please be seated as we continue on page 149, reading together at the top of the page. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim.
Ahavat olam, Beit Yisrael, Amecha ahavta, Amcha ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, Hukim u'mishpatim, Otanu lemadeta, Aleken Adonai Eloheinu b'shochbeinu, V'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratcha, Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed. Ki hem chayenu, Ve'orech yameinu, Uvahem nege yomam valayla, nege yomam valayla, Ve'avatcha al tasir, Mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Ve'avta et Adonai Elohecha, b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha, Uvechol me'odecha, ve'hayu advarim ha'ele, asher anochi mitzavecha yom al levavecha, ve'shinatam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, ve'shivtecha beveitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'aderech, u'v'shochbecha u'v'kumecha, Ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot bein einecha, uktavtam al mezuzot beitecha, uvisharecha, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים. Ani Adonai Elohechem, Adonai Elohechem emet.
Page 157, we read responsively. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. Malachutcha rahu vanecha, bokei ayam libnei Moshe Miriam, zelianu ve'yameru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. V'nemar ki far Adonai et Yaakov, ugealo mi'ad chazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Ka'al Yisrael.
We turn to the top of page 161 as we sing together these words that ask God to grant a Shabbat Shalom, a shelter of love and peace over us and over all creation.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Leshalom. V'ha'amidenu, Shomrenu lechaim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasod et ha-Shabbat le-Torah Tamid olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, Lasod et ha-Shabbat le-Torah Tamid olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael oti leolam, oti leolam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, La'asot et ha-Shabbat le-Torah Tamid olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, La'asot et ha-Shabbat le-Torah Tamid olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, La'asot et ha-Shabbat le-Dorot Tamid olam.
For those of you who are at home, you just need to come to services here in the sanctuary. If for nothing else, everybody here, but to see Micah and Ella and the joy that they have during Vishamru. We turn to page 164 for the Tefillah, our central prayer section of the service, and we rise to ask God to open our lips so that we may all declare God's praise.
Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai. Adonai sefatai tiftach, ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, but my mouth may declare your praise. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yase shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.
Tonight, on the Muslim calendar, begins their festival of Eid al-Adha. Eid al-Adha is the festival that our Muslim friends and neighbors have where they celebrate what we know as the Akedah, the binding of Isaac, but as they know it, the binding of Ishmael. And it got me thinking about different stories being told in different ways, or different ideas being presented in a way that a detail might be changed, and how it changes the message, how it changes the outcome of the story. And this week's Parsha, Hukat, has a very significant example of how one word can change the meaning of an entire ritual, an entire process. So before we look at the text, and we are actually going to look directly at the text tonight, I'm going to ask everyone to turn to page 204. as we say together the prayer for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. And if you two could pass those out. Those of you who are joining us virtually, you should be able to find the link in the Facebook description if you are on Facebook of tonight's service, or if you are joining us on our website directly under the streaming window, you can find a link to the text that we will all be looking at this evening. I'll just give everybody a moment to have the text in front of them. The first text that we have in front of us comes from directly this week's Parsha, and it describes the death of Aaron. Aaron being Moses' brother and the first Kohen Gadol, the first high priest of the Israelite community. And when Aaron dies, this is what we read in the Torah. Moses did as Adonai had commanded. They ascended Mount Hor in the sight of the whole community. Moses stripped Aaron of his vestments and put them on his son Eleazar, and Aaron died there on the summit of the mountain. When Moses and Eleazar came down from the mountain, and then in the Hebrew, Vayiru kol ha'edah ki gava Aharon, the whole community knew that Aaron had breathed his last. And then it says, Vayivku et Aharon shloshim yom kol beit Yisrael. All the house of Israel bewailed Aaron for 30 days. This idea of how the community mourned Aaron for 30 days directly leads us to the process of Shloshim, part of our mourning rituals that we have today. But the text that I want to focus on are those last three words in the Hebrew, Kol Beit Yisrael. All of the house of Israel, all of the people of Israel mourned Aaron. Now, if we jump ahead in the Torah, away from this week's Parsha, to Parshat V'zot HaBracha, which is at the end of the book of Deuteronomy, the final Parsha in the Torah, we read, So Moses, the servant of Adonai, died there in the land of Moab at the command of Adonai. God buried him in the valley in the land of Moab near Beth Peor, and no one knows his burial place to this day. Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were undimmed and his vigor unabated. And then the Torah says in verse 8, Vayivku v'nei Yisrael et Moshe ba'arvot Moab shloshim yom. And the Israelites bewailed Moses in the steppes of Moab for 30 days. The period of wailing and mourning for Moses came to an end. Now, the key differences of these two texts are one significant word, the word kol, meaning all. There are differences between Numbers, where it says Beit Yisrael, the house of Israel, and Deuteronomy, where it says Bnei Yisrael. But at the end of the day, both of those mean all of the children of Israel, or the Israelite people. But so then the question comes, why Aaron gets the modifier kol, the modifier all? Rabbi Michael Chernick, who is professor emeritus of rabbinics at the Hebrew Union College in New York City, taught my class this lesson during our first week of rabbinical school, which happened to be Parshat Hukat. And he taught us that the difference between Aaron and Moses is where the kol comes in, where the all comes in. Who was Aaron for the people? Aaron, as the high priest, was the one who received their sacrifices, was the one who gave them expiation from sins, was the one who blessed their harvest. And at a period where the people were in deep distress, wrongly made them the golden calf. Aaron did what they wanted. But who was Moses? Moses was the one who gave them the law. Moses was the one who said, no, don't do this, don't do that. He was the one who came with all of the commandments. And so the teaching is that in that moment of their deaths, Aaron, who was the yes man, who loved making the people happy at all costs, gets the coal. Everyone wailed for him. Whereas Moses doesn't get the coal because he didn't always make the people happy. He put the barriers around the community. So what's the end result, though? It's Moses that thousands of years later we revere with the title Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses our teacher, Moses our rabbi, Moses our leader, whereas it's just Aaron. Moses is the one who gets the lasting kavod, the lasting honor. Aaron does not. So what does that mean for us? Taught in a sense of leadership, it tells leaders, don't always say yes. You can't always make people happy all the time. But really, it's a message for all of us, that we have to have barriers. We have to have boundaries. Sometimes we have to know how to say no, whether it's to our children, to our friends, to members of our community. Sometimes, even though we may want to make people happy, at the end of the day, the lesson is we should follow Moses and do the right thing, even if the right thing may not be the popular thing in the end. Amen. We take a moment now with our hearts opened by words of Torah to ask for God's blessings and strength to be with those members of our community who are in need of healing. Some are at home recovering, some are in the hospital, some have diseases and illnesses from which they may never recover. This week we think especially of Cooper Saul Roberts, Caroline Eisenhart, Spencer Schilling, Larry Futterman, Marty Duke, Marty Barish, Gary Paul, Brian Berger, Chandler Jacobs, Dory Korn, Harriet Jacobs, Renee Fahn, Susan Abrams, Yael Bat David Velea, Bev Mahone, Alan Friedman, Sarah Kahn, Lee Silverstein, Jill Vanteam, Eleanor Goodman, Yuli Makovich, Libby Routman, Laurel Phoenix, Marjorie Whitmore, Jerry Phillips, Claire Levin, Paul Kershon, Reva Fisher, Leslie Knight, Bert Singerman, Stephen Schiff, Mateo Velasquez, Max Jacobs, Kathy Waldner, Richard Zuspin, Christopher Denton, and Phyllis Lapin. If you are thinking of someone who is in need of a prayer of healing, I invite you to share their name with the community as my eyes meet yours. We think of all of them, all we have named, all we hold in our hearts. We also think of all those who are afflicted by violence around the world. We think especially of those in Highland Park this week. We also ask God to bless those who care for the sick each day. May they be blessed with hope and support, strength and love. So we ask for God's healing presence to be with all of them, all of us, as we sing together this blessing on page 371.
Misheperach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Misheberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us sing. Amen.
We turn to page 586 as we rise for Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liyotzeh breshit, shehu noteh shamayim v'yoser haaretz, umoshav yikaro b'shamayim ima'al, ushchinatu so begovei meromim, hu Eloheinu einod, v'anachnu kor'im u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'nemar Vaya Adonai, L'melech al kol haaretz, Bayom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, Ushemo echad.
Please be seated. At the end of each service, we come to these words of memory, these words that allow us to think of those who have come before us, on whose shoulders we stand, whose presence we feel. The word Kaddish comes from the Hebrew Kodesh, meaning holiness, sanctification, and separate. And so we take this moment and we make it separate. We set it aside from the rest of our service, the rest truly of our week. Because as Rabbi Nachman of Bratslav taught, when said with true intention, the words of Kaddish can cause heaven and earth to kiss, bringing those loved lost back to us, if only for a moment. At this sacred moment of our Shabbat evening worship, we think longingly and lovingly of those taken from us both recently and at this season in years past. We are in a period of Shloshim, the first 30 days since their passing of Wayne Reisner and Rita Jonas. We mark the Artsites, the anniversary of their passing on this Shabbat, of Leslie Friedman Davis, Sylvia Gordon, Bill Hirsch, Sylvia Goldberg Jacobson, Sarah Cass, Brian Dove Leibovich, Mildred Levera, Valdis Wally Lushens, Marian Oppenheim, Murray Politis, Jill Romaine, Nathan Rothenberg, Bernie Siegel, Annie Sondak, and Harry Saraski. And we also recall and remember for a blessing Irina and Kevin McCarthy, Catherine Goldstein, Jacqueline Sunheim, Stephen Strauss, Nicholas Toledo Zaragoza, and Eduardo Uvaldo, victims from Highland Park. If you are remembering someone on this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name with the community as my eyes meet yours. Zikronam livracha. May all of their memories continue to be a blessing. And as we take their memories into our hearts, we link them to the millions of our people who have no one to say Kaddish for them. Bringing all of their memories together, we bless Shmei Rabbah, the great, holy, and awesome name of God, with the words of Kaddish on page 598. We rise together. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei. Bechaye echon uvyom echon uchaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru amen. Yehe Shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam lamei maya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Huya aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn. and comfort to all the bereaved here and everywhere with the blessing of peace. As together we all say, Amen.
Ose shalom imromav, uyase shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru amen.
Our closing song can be found on page 625. Please join us in singing Adon Olam.
Adon Olam Asher Malach B'terem Kol Yitzir Nivra Li'et Nasa V'chefzo Kol Azai Melech Shemo Nikra V'yacharei Hitlot HaKol Levado Yimloch Nora Vehu Haya Vehu Hove Vehu Yeh B'tifara Vehu Echad V'yein Sheni Lehamshilo leachvira, beli reshit, beli tachlit, velo haoz, vehamisra, vehu eli, v'chai goali, v'tzorchem li, be'et tzara, vehu nisi umanos li, menat kosi, b'yom mekra, b'yado, afkid ruchi, b'yet ishan, v'yaira, V'imruchi geviati Adonai li velo ira.
Please be seated. Shabbos, everyone.
Shabbos.
Good evening. It is a joy to be with everyone here this evening as we welcomed in Shabbat together, both those of you who are in the sanctuary as well as everyone joining us virtually. Just a few brief announcements before we conclude our service with Kiddush and Motzi and a closing benediction. This Monday evening at 7:30 is our Sisterhood board meeting, and on Wednesday at 11 o'clock we will have Tanakh study in the social hall. Join us as we continue studying the book of Joshua. If you've never studied it before, it is a book of intrigue and war and love stories, and it's like Game of Thrones in the Bible, so without the dragons. So come join us at 11 o'clock on Wednesday for Tanakh study. At 1 o'clock on Thursday is our knitting and crochet group, and then next Friday at 7:30 p.m. will be our next Kabbalat Shabbat service with July anniversary blessing. So if you have a July anniversary, come next week for a blessing and a little sweet to celebrate your anniversary with your CDT family. As we've been doing each week for the last number of months, we've been thanking members of the community for going above and beyond, really for doing so much for our congregation and our community. And this week, got to say thanks to Mike and Amy for the fantastic job I heard they did this past Saturday night. I know a lot of you were at the Independence Day barbecue, shindig, concert, whatever we call it.
Shindig.
Shindig. But thank you, Mike, and send our thanks to Amy, too, for
awesome.
bringing your talent and your love, not just to the Bima, but to that as well. So we're going to conclude now with our Kiddush and Motzi. We're going to turn to page 123 for Kiddush. I'm going to ask everyone to please rise, and I'm going to ask anybody who's under the age of 15, I'm going to guess back there, 15 to come to the Bima to, Tyler, not you, to help us with Kiddush and Motzi. You don't have to if you don't want to, but not them, him.
They have to.
They have to. Come on, Micah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kishar b'mitzvotav v'ratza banu, v'shabbat kodsho v'yavahu v'ratzon hinchilanu, zikaron l'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila l'mikra'ei kodesh, zecher l'tziat Mitzrayim, ki banu v'acharta v'yotanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha v'yavahu v'ratzon hichaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Chaim. We uncover our challah.
Micah, don't you want to get some challah? It's a challah.
We're going to ask you guys to help me with this. Hold on. As we sing together.
Motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Motzi lechem min haaretz. You take a little piece.
Here, you can bring some to Micah. And we ask for God's blessing. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai varach et amo v'et kol v'nei adam b'shalom. May God give strength to our people. And may God bless all of us, all of Israel and all creation with the blessing of peace. Together we say, Amen.
Amen.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.